This meeting is being recorded.
Hello, third grade, and welcome to Unit 6, Week 5. Let's go ahead and start with our vocabulary words for this week. Your first word is the word ridiculous. Something that's ridiculous is foolish or very silly. So a joke could be ridiculous, for example. Your next word is the word slithered. That when something slithered, that means it slid along. So think about the way a snake moves when it's moving around in the grass or in the sand. It's slithering. Next, we have the word entertainment. Entertainment is something that keeps people really interested or amused, like a play or a funny story or a movie, anything that's entertaining people or keeping their interest or making them laugh. And our last word is the word humorous. Humorous means something that is funny or enjoyable. So humorous is a synonym. It has the same meaning as something that's funny. Now, for our spelling words for this week, we're going to focus on words with the suffixes full, less, and ly at the end of them. Your first word is the word careful, fearful, helpful, colorful, harmful, pitiful, painless, priceless, helpless, sleepless, rainless, helplessly, peacefully, carefully, wisely, later, declare, partner, wonderful, and cloudless. Now you'll see that some of these actually have two suffixes in them. So if you have the word helplessly, you have the suffix less and you have the suffix ly in it. Peaceful has the suffix full and the suffix ly in it. So you can have more than one in a sentence or in a word, sorry. Now for our ELA and grammar notes, we're going to talk about prepositions and prepositional phrases. So a preposition is a word that shows the relationship between a word in the sentence and what we call the object of that preposition. So the object of a preposition is the noun or the pronoun that comes after it. So the preposition is exactly like the word says, pre-positioned. That means it's positioned or it's placed, it's sitting right before the object. So you have the word and what it's talking about. So the preposition and then the object of the preposition. So the preposition is used to relate the object to something else in the sentence. So it's kind of like a connecting word. Prepositions can never be alone. So we're going to also learn about what we call prepositional phrases. So that's what you have when you have the preposition and the object and any words that may be in between the two. That whole thing would be called a prepositional phrase. So there's a lot of different kinds of prepositions. I'm going to give you some of them and some example sentences. So some of the most common prepositions that we use are the words in, on, at, under, over, to, from, for, with, by, of, into, before, after, and during. So I'm going to give you some example sentences and show you the relationship. So in bold, you're going to see the prepositional phrase. So you're going to do the preposition and the object, and if there are words in between, so the preposition that it's talking about, and any other little words that may be in between. So if I say the flower in the vase is a peony, in is one of my prepositions. It's showing me that it's relating the flower and telling me where the flower is located. The flower is in the vase. So in the vase is my entire prepositional phrase. In is the preposition, vase is the noun that it's talking about, and then we have the word the in between, so it becomes part of it. So your prepositional phrase, remember, is your preposition word, the noun, and anything in between. Next, we have the umbrella with the polka dots is Marianne's. So with over here is my preposition. Polka dots is the noun that I'm talking about. So I'm relating, with shows the relationship between the umbrella and the polka dots. Which umbrella is it? It's the one with the polka dots. So with the polka dots is my prepositional phrase. Next we have, we will be going to the movies. So to is my preposition. Movies is the object of my preposition, to where, right? Or to what, or to who. Remember, the object of the preposition is always a noun or a pronoun. So to shows a relationship to where we're going. It tells us we're going to the movies. So to the movies is my prepositional phrase. Next, I have my lunch period is after science. So after is one of my prepositions, and science or science class, if it'll make it easier for you guys to remember. Science class is my noun. It's the object of my preposition. So after shows a relationship between when lunch is, and it tells us that lunch is after science class. So after science class is my prepositional phrase. After is a preposition. Science class is the noun or the object of that preposition. And our last example sentence, you are walking on your tiptoes. On shows the relationship between how you're walking, and it tells us how by doing it by walking on your tiptoes. So on is a preposition, tiptoes is the object of the preposition or the noun. On your tiptoes is the whole prepositional phrase. So the examples that we looked at of the prepositions and prepositional phrases. So the objects in those sentences that we talked about, the object in the first sentence is the word vase. The object in the second sentence is the word polka dots. In the third sentence, it's the word movies. The object in the fourth sentence is science class. And the object in the fifth sentence was tiptoes. So to find the object of a preposition, ask what after the preposition. So you found the word in the sentence, the flower in the vase is a peony. So you found the preposition. In what? In the vase. Or to, we will be going to the movies. To what or to where? To the movies. After what or after who? Or you're going to see after science class. On what? On your tiptoes. So here's the prepositions and the object of those prepositions. You'll see them over here. Now remember, if the object of a preposition is a pronoun, like not a regular noun, remember pronouns take the place of a noun. So if the object of the preposition is a pronoun, it must be an object pronoun, right? Makes sense. Object preposition, object pronoun. So you're not going to use he or she or I because those are subject pronouns. We're going to use object pronouns. So me, you, him, her, it, us, them. You use the pronouns that you would use towards the end of a sentence, not towards the beginning of a sentence. Now I did list some prepositional phrases for you here. So here's some prepositions that we use. Like you saw, there's lots and lots more. Some example prepositional phrases. We're also going to cover commas, and we're going to review using commas, particularly after introductory words. So an introductory word is a word that comes at the beginning. Now we use a comma after the name of a person that's being spoken to. So if the first word in a sentence is a person's name, like you're speaking to them or you're addressing them, or if your introductory word is it's something like yes or no or wow, showing some kind of response or exclamation, there's a comma after that. And introductory words could be names, they could be adverbs. Remember, adverbs tell you how you're doing something. So happily, sadly, quietly. Or they could be other words that should be separated from the rest of the sentence. So I'm listing some examples here. My first one is, Luna, can you please pick a book to read to the class? So Luna is my introductory word. I'm speaking to her. Since I'm addressing her or I'm talking to her in this sentence, I put a comma after her name. Maria, do you have the markers? Same thing. I'm talking to her. I'm asking her a question. So I put a comma after her name. Wow, did you see that cheetah? So wow is one of my exclamation words that's a kind of introductory word. Yes, the books are here. No, I didn't find the markers. First, write your name on the paper. Later, we went to the fishing pond. So these words are words that are separated. You make a small pause when you're saying them or when you're reading them, and they have a comma after them. And the last thing we're going to talk about is idioms. Now, idioms are a lot of fun. They're a phrase, they're a kind of figurative language that you find in lots of languages, not just in English, which is really cool. And they're phrases that have a different meaning than the words that they're made up of. So the phrase doesn't mean exactly what the words mean in it. It's like a saying. So we're going to look at some of them and you'll see what I mean. Now, if I say driving someone up the wall, my little brother is driving me up the wall. That means they're irritating them or they're bugging them or they're making them crazy. Or if someone says, I didn't want to tell you this, but I have to drop a bomb and let you know that this happened. So that's when you're saying something shocking or unexpected, like I accidentally knocked over your favorite vase, or I spilled chocolate milk on your new toy. If I say something slipped my mind, that means I forgot. So if you come up to me and say, Miss Zena, did you remember to bring the cupcakes today? And I say, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. It slipped my mind. That means I forgot. So if I say to try your hand at something or try his hand or her hand at something, that means you're trying something for the first time. So I've never been fishing, but I'll try my hand at it. That means I'm giving it a try. If we say something costs an arm and a leg, or if something is a ripoff, that means we're saying it's way too expensive. It costs way too much, more than it should be. If something freaks you out, it scares you. If something happens out of the blue, that means it happened without warning. So we were sitting at the park and playing, and out of the blue, it started to rain really hard. So, we didn't know that it was going to rain. Maybe we didn't notice the clouds. If you say you want to sleep on it. So if you ask your friend a question, hey, do you want to go to the park or the beach tomorrow? And your friend says, I don't know, let me sleep on it. That means let me think about it and decide later or decide tomorrow. If someone says, I'm all ears, that means that they're listening to you, that you have their attention. So if you walk up to your mom and mom is busy in the kitchen and you say, Mom, I have something important to tell you. She puts down what she's working on and she turns to look at you and she's listening and she says, okay, go ahead, I'm all ears. That means you have her full attention. The phrase go down, did you see that, that event go down at the park? So you can say, so when we say something goes down, it means something happened or it occurred. And it could be referring to any kind of event. And then the last one is to call it a day. Now, when we say we're going to call it a day, that means we're going to stop for now, or we're going to quit for today. So, we've done enough. And we're going to review really quick suffixes. These are the ones that you guys saw in your spelling words. Remember, a suffix comes at the end of a word. Full means full of, less means without, and li means the way something was done. Now, remember, if you have your base word that you're adding a suffix to that ends with a consonant and y, remember to change that y to an I before you add the suffix to it. All right, let's get into our literature anthology, and we're going to be working with a poem called Ollie's Escape.
Genre: poetry. Ollie's escape. Ollie escaped in the classroom, and that was an awful mistake. It would have been folly to try and catch Ollie, since Ollie's a 7-foot snake. He wiggled his way toward the teacher, who jumped on her desk with a scream. Faster and faster, he squiggled right past her. Old Ollie was picking up steam. The rest of us ran for the closet as Ollie slid right out the door. We heard a loud squall as he entered the hall. He's a difficult snake to ignore. He slithered his way to the office as teachers jumped out of his way. But Principal Poole is the boss of the school. We wondered just what he would say. Essential question: what makes you laugh? Read this humorous poem about a lively classroom pet.
Okay, so we went through our first poem. Now this is a humorous or a funny poem, right? It tells you about something that's happening. We've got our class pet Ollie, who got out of his home or his place, and he's going all around the school. You'll notice there's certain rhyme patterns. As you go through, you'll notice that certain words are rhyming with other words. So folly and Ollie, mistake and snake, faster and past her, squall and haul. So as you're reading through, you'll notice words that have that same ending sound, and that's our rhyme. So you'll notice different rhyme patterns as we go along. So let's keep reading the rest of this poem and see what happens with Ollie.
It didn't take long for an answer. In fact, he decided to scoot. He burst through the door with a terrified roar and a 7-foot snake in pursuit. Ollie the snake was excited, and we, of course, thought it was fun to see teachers hiding while Ollie was sliding and Principal Poole on the run. They ordered us out of the building, and somebody called the police. There were doctors and vets and men with big nets to make sure the problem would cease. But Ollie at last was exhausted. He snaked his way back to his den. When they searched all around, he was finally found, curled up, asleep in his pen. Dave Crawley.
Okay, so as you can see, our poem, the rest of the poem followed that same rhyme pattern that we were noticing earlier. So you'll notice that the second and the fifth line rhyme, and the third and fourth line rhyme. So Ollie the snake was excited, and we of course thought it was fun to see teachers hiding while Ollie was sliding and Principal Poole on the run. So fun and run rhymed, hiding and sliding rhymed. Same over here, police and cease rhymed, vets and nets rhyme. So these are things you're going to notice as you go through. Now our next poem is called The Gentleman Bookworm. So this is actually a really fun poem as well. You guys are going to enjoy it.
Genre: poetry. Compare texts. Read this humorous poem about hungry bookworms. The Gentleman Bookworm. There once was a gentleman bookworm, ate his words with a fork and a spoon. When friends crawled down from Bookend Town, he offered them good-night moon. He fed them the wind in the willows and a page out of Charlotte's Web. They were eating bazaar where the wild things are, when one of the guest worms said, "How sinfully rich and delicious! Why should anyone bother to cook? You've done it, dear boy. Now sit down and enjoy a bite of this poetry book." Having dined on the table of contents, a worm wiggling up to the host said, "When do we eat? Ah, bon appetit!" cried the gentleman bookworm, "a toast." "Here's a bowl of my favorite verses and a dish of ridiculous rhyme. But might I suggest," said the host to the guest, "chew them slowly, one line at a time." So the worm waved her postage stamp napkin, curled up in a little round ball. She proceeded to swallow the poems that follow until she had swallowed them all. J. Patrick Lewis. Make connections. Why is a poem like The Gentleman Bookworm good entertainment? What other narrative poems have you read? How are the poems similar? How are they different?
Okay, so that takes us to the end of our poems in our literature anthology. We're going to jump into our reading and writing workshop. This poem is called The Camping Trip. Let's go ahead and get started.
Genre: poetry. The Camping Trip. We roughed it at Old Piney Park, with tents and hot dogs after dark. I'd barely yawned and gone to sleep when I felt something creep, creep, creep. A slimy something crawled on me, across my toe, up to my knee. Ridiculous! Hard to believe that creature slithered up my sleeve. It was not humorous or fun. I hollered, "Rattlesnake, let's run!" We all jumped up and stomped around. Our tent collapsed flat on the ground. 10 flashlights clicked on to reveal that creepy crawly by my heel. I blushed bright red. Oops, I was wrong. Snake? No, a lizard. 1 inch long. Constance Andrea Kermes. Bubblegum. I bought a pack of bubblegum, as I do every week. Unwrapping 10 or 20 sticks, I popped them in my cheek. I started masticating. That's a fancy word for chew. The gum became a juicy gob. I took a breath and blew. I suddenly inflated, puffing up like a balloon. I was a giant bubble, big and round as a full moon. My father hit the ceiling. He was really in a stew. He hollered, "Stop, don't go," as out the door I flew. The neighbors' eyes were popping. They dropped everything to see. I was the entertainment of the day. Forget about TV. If you like bubble gum, beware. Chew just one stick a day, or you'll become a bubble too and float up, away. I saw my friends below me and let loose a mighty roar. Whoosh! All my air blew out, and I was just a kid once more. Diana Kent. Make connections. Which poem made you laugh? Talk about what funny thing happens in each of the poems. Which poem has the funniest events or characters?
Okay, that takes us to the end of our reading. Let's take a look at the genre that we're looking at today. And we were looking at poetry and specifically narrative poetry. So narrative poetry is a kind of poem that will tell you a story. It's got several lines and stanzas. Remember, stanzas, we said, are like paragraphs, but in poems. It's when you see a group of lines that are next to each other, and then there's a space after them, and then you'll see another group of lines. So each one of those groups is a stanza.
Narrative poem. Narrative poetry tells a story, can have any number of lines and stanzas. A stanza is a group of lines that form part of a poem, often has rhyme and rhythm. Find text evidence. I can tell that bubblegum is a narrative poem. It tells a story. It also has stanzas. Each stanza has 4 lines. The second and fourth lines rhyme. Bubblegum. I bought a pack of bubblegum, as I do every week. Unwrapping 10 or 20 sticks, I popped them in my cheek. I started masticating. That's a fancy word for chew. The gum became a juicy gob. I took a breath and blew. I suddenly inflated, puffing up like a balloon. I was a giant bubble, big and round as a full moon. My father hit the ceiling. He was really in a stew. He hollered, "Stop, don't go," as out the door I flew. This is a stanza. It is a group of lines. There are 4 stanzas on this page. Point of view. Point of view in a poem is what the narrator thinks about an event, a thing, or a person. Look for details that show the narrator's point of view. Find text evidence. In the camping trip, I read that the narrator feels something creeping on him. He calls it slimy. He says it slithered. The details tell me he is either afraid of or dislikes small, creepy, crawly things. This is the narrator's point of view. Graphic organizer. Details. A slimy something crawled on me.
All right, that takes us to the end of our notes for today and our reading. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I hope you have a wonderful day. Take care. Bye-bye.